Here in Oregon, it's practically swampland like Florida, like the Everglades, or at least right here by the Hood River, which is just the other side of that tree line. And as I'm driving by, I see water, literally swampland with trees sticking up out like this. Like literally, it's dripping water. I don't know if I can see catch a drop, but as I'm stepping through these, I watch water droplets fall off. My friend Laura Edgar has found these plasma-fired trees sticking up out of the swampland in Florida. See the water? See how much water's in there? So yeah, and all these vines mean it's that wet year-round. And look at this tree that I just showed you from the backside. You can hardly tell that it's burned from the backside. Just those few chunks on the other side. And as I drive through here, I can see it all over. But if you don't have an eye for it, I see one hold on. Right there, center screen. The top of this one. But if you don't have an eye for it, right there, that stump sticking out of the ground is burned. Let's go check it out a little closer. Almost all the trees have the lower portion burned, like that one. You can see the bottom side is black, goes up to about here, and it's only blackened right there. That's plasma burn. That's the same blackening effect that you see on the bottom of all the telephone poles. This one, hardcore plasma burn. But if you don't know what you're looking at, you drive by and you go, yeah, I've been looking, I haven't seen any of that plasma burn in my area around where I live. And I don't mean to sound like a jerk or be derogatory, but I think a lot of people could see this all over where they live. That's the burn patterns. This one's highly burned. So I don't need to do too much more close-ups because most people have been watching this know that, yep, that's the pattern. Sizzle, sizzle. Sizzle on, my wayward stump. Burned, unburned. But if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't see it. I do believe this is all part of the magnetic pole shift. Yes, there are directed energy weapons, but 95% of what you're seeing, the knot right in the center of this tree right here, I guarantee if I go get close, that knot is burned. 95% of what you're seeing, hope this ain't electrified. Should I touch two of them and find out? Yeah, we're good. 95% of what you're seeing is not directed energy. It is random energy. Springing up in random locations, now you can see the burn. A plasma shield above the earth that protects it. That's where they're drawing the energy from to use directed energy weapons. But the energy from that same place is what's just coming up through the ground as a form of ground current. I'm going to also include a link from Skywatch Media that talks about how a fluctuation in the magnetic field results in a surge of ground current that comes up through these. So you can pluck the strings of the magnetic field like a harp. And as soon as they fluctuate and wiggle, and they make skyquakes, when you stretch the magnetic field out, and then you let it go and it snaps back to where it normally was, it makes a skyquake and a surge in ground current. Here's just a little bit more of the burn pattern. And that's why this is all a controlled demolition of our worldview. Collectively, our paradigm. Slow, methodically, one step at a time, incrementally. And that's why this information is on a drip feed. And that's why that's part of the filtration process. Turkey tail fungus. Cool looking stuff. One, yes, it separates people based on their level of consciousness and at what point they become aware that the world they thought they knew isn't the world they know that they live in. As you can see, that was a power pole, and the whole thing's burnt and laid down. But the reason for the incremental drip feed is to put enough pieces into your worldview that don't fit, one piece at a time, until you get to the point where you're willing and ready to reconsider what you think you thought you knew. Otherwise, it sends you into shock. It's cool looking fungus too. When you drive through a forest or by a forest and you see the bottom of the trees all black like that, that's plasma fire. When you drive through your neighborhood and the bottom of the telephone poles all look the same, that's this electromagnetic energy, this ground current coming up through. That's why I say 95% of what you see is not directed energy weapons, but they draw the energy from the same source, and it is the same type of energy. So as you can see, people have come through here and cut this wood down, and when they notice and say, "Hey Captain, I think this fire is different than anything I've ever seen. We ain't trained for this. What the fuck's going on here?" He's told, "Well, you just keep your mouth shut because it's under investigation, and if you now go blabbering your mouth about what you've seen to anybody, you're going to jail for interfering with an investigation." But this isn't about me. It would upend our world if those videos went viral. That's why it's a drip feed. Prolong the calm before the storm for the greatest amount of happiness for the most amount of people. And in order to do that, we need to take it easy, take it slow, and try and get these people up to speed incrementally and gradually. Because if they suddenly realize the moon and the three kings of Orion's belt are spinning in the sky in ways they never have been, they will lose their mind. All of those trees have the plasma burn on them. This one's pretty obvious, but all of them. And these ones aren't just burnt on the very bottom, they're burnt up to about 20, 30 feet. And then some, but generally. And most people driving by will not see this. That's part of the separation. But that's also part of why we're being given so many opportunities to see whether it's the moon in the sky or the fires in your neighborhood that are unlike anything you've ever seen. Or, when the time comes, that there is a portal in alignment with what you see as the sun, whether or not that's the real sun or a sun simulator. And that portal opens up and makes a break in the magnetic field through which craft transport themselves. Opening up the magnetic field is what allows this type of stuff to happen, because the solar radiation makes its way through. That's why we see the colors around the sun and those colorful clouds that used to only be seen in the Arctic, where there is no magnetic field, and the solar plasma was allowed to turn those colorful clouds into those colorful clouds. Now we see them all around the Earth. Last year, MB3 caught a video, someone sent it to him, of Aurora Borealis, Northern Lights in New Mexico. We are at the pole shift. That's why this incremental drip feed to shift your paradigm has been underway for quite some time. See that one? Hardcore, hardcore. Oh! Hardcore. Yeah, this one's a little too big, or I'd throw it on in the truck. You see it, right? That it's all burnt on the inside? And here's the outside. Nice, fresh, unburnt wood outside. That's how big this tree is. So, we are at the point of magnetic pole shift. And what we call the magnetic field, the ancients might have called the thinning of the veil. So, what I'm saying is I'm not back in the middle of nowhere. I'm at a place where people use for hiking, biking. That's where we just were, right there. I haven't walked a long way to see that sign. And this trail that cuts off, and my truck's just parked right over here. My point is, this place gets plenty of foot traffic. And the fact that this is still some sort of secret, and most people have no clue, shows you that there is a separation going on right now. So that last plasma fire here in Nampa I showed you was about 4 miles before my pickup. Here I'm about 4 miles after my pickup, headed out of town in a different direction than when I came in. We'll check out this one here in a second, but first I want to go up here and show you this one. You think word gets around in a small town like this, where people are at church? Probably. Like this person driving up, probably wondering what the hell I'm doing. That dog probably don't like me. It's okay, buddy. So as you can see, that's also here in Nampa, Idaho. These ones were missed, but it looks like this one down here on the end, I'm not sure if it's a tree or a rock. We'll go check it. But I don't want to make his dogs bark too much more. Yeah, this was a tree. That's the remnants of the other tree that this guy had burned. So that's within an 8-mile radius here. I've filmed it twice here in a very small town. There should be 3,000 YouTube pages out there of truckers that notice this shit. You can't blame it all on censorship. If more people were able to see it the way I am able to see it, and for some reason they're not, YouTube would be flooded with these videos. What does that say about the condition of humanity? That says more about the state of the human condition than any censorship online. This is going to be super depressing, but I'm going to do it anyway. You can see there's a hole right there in the ground. Because I've already made one video up here at Jacobs Lake in Arizona. And they have signs on the side roads that say, "Do not enter, burn area," as if a person walking around in an area after there's been a fire somehow damages the environment more. And they have signs that say, "No smoking except in vehicles," as if this is being caused by people flicking cigarette butts out their windows. You seeing a pattern here with the holes that are blown in the ground? And that's where a tree once was. This whole thing is where a tree once was. And they're still pretending this is forest fire. Blowing these holes in the ground. Clear down in there. Another one. And I'm gonna go right over here and show you something real depressing. Because I'm getting to the point where I know I've said this before, that I'm gonna stop doing plasma videos, plasma fire videos. But plasma fires just keep on happening. People are just so willing to believe. And they can see what I can see too, but their mind's eye will not allow them to actually see it for what it is. They drive right through, keep their eyes on the road, and pretend it was a forest fire that they just drove through. Literally hundreds of miles just like this. And this is light. It gets pretty bad. Let's go around the corner. I mean, this ain't light, this is bad. All these trees are probably gonna die. See these little ones? These are from the last plasma fire that was here. I think I made a video right here called Fire and Ice, because the plasma video I made right here was in the winter time. Again, fires don't blow holes in the ground around the base of the tree. Just like this tree proves it burned flamelessly. You know why? This branch is unburned. All these branches up here are completely unburned. Brown. They're not black, they're brown. The focus isn't helping too much. There you go. Now you can see the brown wood. Not black. It still has the outer bark on it. Unburnt. Right there on the tree. Center screen. You see that unburnt piece of wood right there, center screen? Right there. All these branches that come out are also brown and unburnt. That means this whole tree, look closely, burned without a flame, or those flames would have reached up and burnt those pieces of wood. This branch is unburned. These branches are unburned. That's the option you have right now. And I've been directly very open and honest with my experience. It was a heartfelt, tear-drenched prayer to Jesus Christ that changed my life. But obviously I've been being prepared for this for much longer than just the last 2 years. Trying to get it to show you that this is flameless. There you go. Kinda. You can see this is unburnt. This is so highly burnt that if there were any flames coming out from here, it would have burned the underside of this. Are you willing to trust your own senses? Are you willing to think for yourself? For real though, what I stopped for was to catch this thing over here. So I'm going to show you this one, and then right over there, there's a couple more that are burnt exactly like these. See how it's burnt? This tuft is burnt. There's one right there. One right there. There. Here. Anyway, you see all these patches of burn? There's 2 of them there. One here. One there. The average person wouldn't be able to look at this and be able to tell you that wasn't regular fire, but I can see how it centralizes. It's centralized on that clump and that clump, and even from the middle of this one, that clump. It's where there's a root ball that goes down into the ground that acts as a conductor to draw the electricity up. And that's why it's in these little black patches all over. I'm not even sure how well you can see them because of the sun and the glare and stuff. There we go, see all the black patches? Fire doesn't centrally locate in little patches. It burns the ground evenly, and if you had this many patches in one small area that burned all the way, if it was regular fire, it would have spread out. I have an idea about why these fires are flameless, because electricity is always trying to get back in with the main source of electricity that came from and rejoin the main flow. Flame is a weak plasma. And so I think it is actually drawn back into the tree, because some of these trees that burn so hard on the inside and not a single flame catches out on the outside, the only explanation I can come up with is that the flame is literally drawn back in. Here's a couple. The flame is literally drawn back into the wood, and that's how you get these flameless forest fires that I've pointed out the evidence of many a times. These little clumps of dark black, for the experienced plasmologist, fire doesn't concentrate in little spots here and there, but it does follow the root pattern where there's a big enough root ball going down in the ground. One there, there, and there. One there, 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 there. You can see that that's unburned. And things don't burn out in the center and leave unburned. But I'm gonna go over here to this next one down the road and show you exactly that. This is unburned, that little spot right there next to my finger. There we go. And you can see that's unburned. You can still see the square of the outside of it. Anyway, point is, don't lose sight of the bigger picture. MB3 did a recent video talking about the pole shift. I'll include the link in the description, but it's not a theory anymore. It's a fact. The only thing that's up for debate is exactly what the effects will be, because we've never, or at least the history we've been given, doesn't show any evidence of having had this happen while people were alive. So let's cruise right over there next to that pole. See the similarity, how the middle's burnt out? Here as well. How it's, if we can get the lighting right, unburned here. I want you to have to take my word for it, but the lighting really ain't helping. Okay, let's see if we can get in here. So you can see how it's burnt out right up the middle there. It's missing the bottom right part because it's really charred to a crisp down on the bottom. But anyway, I'm not going to take too much time re-explaining the plasma fires. There's plenty of my other videos you can check out if you want. See this burn strip right here? The lighting really looks like it's not helping too much. There's a burn strip right here with unburned here. There we go, kinda. You can kind of see where the electricity, the lightning bolt went here, but not here. This ain't the best image. But my point is, see how it burned it up through the middle? That's the common element that it does with the trees also. See all the water right there? So there's not much of an argument that it was a parched tree that was just dehydrated from a drought and decided to spontaneously combust from the inside. So here's two of them that look exactly the same. So here's one of those round ones I was telling you about. You can see the speckled burn pattern here. Maybe I'll try the zoom. You can see that it's burnt it down to a little twig at the bottom. Here's where the burn-unburn line starts and stops. And lighting's really not helping here, but I think you get the idea. Burnt down to a little tiny thing at the bottom, and at the top I can't fit my fingers around it, but down here at the bottom it's burnt down to something I can fit my fingers around. And I'll be driving down the road and I'll see hundreds of these right next to each other, or as is this case with this one, there'll be one like this burnt all the way and the others will be untouched. This is what they start out looking like. This is what they end up looking like. Wow. And this is just all in one spot. This is the one-way light that I was sitting at the other end of when I showed you those first poles. See the burn spot right there in the middle? And right now, center screen, just one little burn spot right there on the post. And right there, center screen. Just kind of a little here, a little there. Where'd it go? This is what I mean by they show different degrees of this burn signature. See the unburned over here on the left? Highly burned there. And the only place that has any burn is right here. And a little bit right there. And you come back here, you can see this whole spot right here has all been caved out, yet it's unburned here. And unburned there if I get my shadow off it. But you can see that's quite a chunk missing out of that one. And as you know, fire don't do that.
So that's pretty crazy. Regular fires don't do that. How is it that a regular fire can burn a tree from the root up and from the inside out? And it's not like they're in an extremely dry environment. The first location he showed was literally in water. You can't set fire to an area that's as moist as swampland. Not with regular fires anyway. How is it that the root can burn from the ground up when the root is growing out of the dirt that's surrounded by water in the first location? The stump and roots are literally sitting in some low water in the first location. And, you know, it took me a minute for all this to click for me. Like when I first started watching Jeff's plasma videos, I knew something was off, but it took me having to see multiple videos to fully understand the magnitude of what's happening to the earth. And I know a lot of people are asleep and probably will never notice it until it's too late. But also I think one of the reasons people in our community don't notice is because we stay busy having to work to survive, and we don't have the time to go out and investigate. Now Jeff is lucky enough to have a job that allows him to drive across the country and see things while he's getting paid. And I totally think him getting into that profession was not a coincidence. He may not have consciously known at the time when he applied to the job that he'd be making all these videos, but on an unconscious level, he knew that that was God's plan for him. I would have no idea these plasma fires were going on had I not seen his footage. I mean, I would have no idea. I'd probably have driven past that, but you just look out into the woods or wherever, you look at, what do you call it, one of those wooden poles sticking out of the ground, and you just look at it and you don't really give it a second glance. So I probably have seen them, I just wasn't aware of what I was looking at. Yeah, I would have had no idea at all had I not seen the footage, and it's my own fault. I don't spend enough time in nature like I should be, and I don't claim to be an expert on fire, electromagnetics, or plasma, but that footage Jeff showed us was not done through a traditional fire. Only some form of electricity could still burn something through the water like that. I would love for someone to try to come up with an answer to these plasma fires. Thus far, I think Jeff is pretty on point with his theory for what's causing the plasma fires. And I'm going to show you guys a video at the end of this video that shows what's playing a role in affecting the magnetics or electromagnetics of the earth. But first I just want to read a comment I left on his videos a while back. In it he was showing some of the rainbow rings around the sun and talking about how it relates to the magnetic field weakening. And I'll put a link in the description to that video. It's called Signs and Wonders in the Heavens. I said, quote, "We've always been spiritual beings. There has never been a real line of separation that separates our physical self from our spiritual self. Technically, there is no physical self that's made of matter. What if the electromagnetic field is actually the quote-unquote physical manifestation of the veil and or some aspect or representation of the veil? After all, scientism likes to deny the spiritual and label everything with a science-oriented name in order to validate their matter model instead of the consciousness model. If we're going by the consciousness model, then what we call the weakening magnetic field could actually be the thinning of the veil. Think about it. The magnetic field can repel and attract different things. How is that any different from a spiritual veil that can block out certain things, making us blind, or attract certain things like the low frequency things that make up this world? As the veil, aka electromagnetic field, thins, our consciousness has more access to perceiving a greater field of the light spectrum, hence the rainbow colors in the sky that you point out in your video. Although the collective consciousness is affected by the thinning of the veil, aka the electromagnetic field, only some individuals can see it because ultimately the thinning of the veil can only be acknowledged and accepted by the free will choice of the individual. That's why your neighbor thinks you're crazy," unquote. I think all these anomalies we're seeing on Earth and in the sky, I think they relate to the Hopi prophecy and the coming spiritual awakening they talked about. And, you know, I know the word planet or planetary body can be a trigger word for some people. So make of that term what you will. Adapt that word to whatever shape you think the earth is, and try to integrate what I'm saying into whatever model of the universe you go by. We're at a time to where we don't have time to argue back and forth about what shape the earth is. And if you can't find common ground, then just agree to disagree, but still come together. Come together on the fact that we're all seeing these crazy anomalies together, no matter what side of the debate you're on. Personally, I tend to put more credence in the consciousness model, but that's just me. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the world around us seems to be mirroring what's happening to the collective consciousness. Even on an individual level, we can't deny that there's times when our personal outer reality reflects the inner reality so much so that it creates these unexplainable synchronicities. But in terms of the collective consciousness, I think this pole shift and many other things going on around us represents the mitosis that's happening right now with the collective consciousness. You could think of Earth as like a cell dividing, and some of us are choosing to remain asleep and stay with this Earth, and some are choosing to merge with the new Earth as they continue to go through their spiritual awakening process. I think the biblical term that some people use is the separation of the wheat and tare. And like Jeff said, there's so many ways that God is nudging us bit by bit to slowly try to wake us up from our sleep. And the more time that goes by, the more accelerated this awakening process gets for the individual. I think the same can be said for the polarization going on within the collective consciousness. I mean, we can look around us and see how polarized the world is. That's because there's polarization going on as the one collective consciousness splits into two collective consciousnesses, the higher collective consciousness and the lower collective consciousness, which is this earth. But I don't want to go too deep into that. I talk about that more so on other videos. And when it comes to this electromagnetic pole shift, the longer people wait to open their eyes to it, the more of a shock it's going to be to wake up and see that their old paradigm has crumbled. And just like Jeff said, some of these people will become dangerous as this process accelerates. Not because they have any real power over you, but because of the amount of fear they'll hold within themselves. And when people are controlled by fear, there isn't anything they won't do to defend themselves. Even if it's love they're defending themselves against. It's weird. It's like some form of hypnosis. We're starting to kind of see this now, but I want to show you guys one last video. Now, prior to this video, I'd noticed the lines in the sky, but I never really paid much attention to the exact direction that the lines were going in. Apparently, there's something above us that's magnetically pulling all the metals from the chemtrails in the same direction. Watch this.
What I'm showing you here is that these lines all align with magnetic north, or whatever it is pulling them and aligning them with the flux lines of the magnetic field that emanates from right there. I've seen it in alignment with the sun oftentimes, where even with the sun, they all start to go out at an angle in each direction. But clearly, in this case, all of the metallic particles are aligning with the flux lines of a magnetic field. And all the ones over here go that way. Overhead they go straight. Over here they go that way at a 45, and over here they're flat again. And so now that I've shown it to you, you'll notice it quite often. Right there is whatever is producing the magnetic field that is aligning the metallic particles in all of this airborne, whatever you want to call it, with flux lines. Just like the Earth's magnetic field has flux lines, as does every magnet, whatever's over here is emanating flux lines that's making the metallic particles align. You seeing it? These ones go sideways. These ones go at a 45 that way. These ones go straight up and down. These ones go at a 45 that way. And these ones are flat again. So that's what we're seeing, is something right here drawing the metallic particles in these clouds into formation that you're seeing here. And now that you've seen it, you'll see it all the time. Whether it's pieces of Tiamat, Nibiru, whatever it is, I see it often enough that I know you'll see it now too, now that it's been pointed out to you. I used to think it was aligning with the sun, because for some reason it would quite often do this with the sun, where they all line up with the sun. But as you can see, the sun's setting over there, and whatever's producing the magnetic field. You can follow the lines, and they all roads lead to Rome, and all magnetic lines lead to the source. Just saying. You'll see it all the time now that I've pointed it out to you. You'll be like, damn, there it is. Something's on the horizon over there. Straight. 45s. Flat. .45s. Flat, but the tree line's in the way here. But if I zoom out, maybe you can see some of those lines. But if your family and friends ain't awake yet, each one of these drives them further down into a form of denial and avoidance. And I'll talk more about that later too, because they've developed a special kind of denial where you can show and tell and point it out to them. And their form of denial is, it won't affect me. Sure, I see what you're saying. Sure, I heard everything you said. Sure, I agree. And it won't affect me one bit. It's not going to change one thing about my behavior and my day. Nothing's going to change my world. Disease has the world. That's the actual pandemic right now. So anyway, you can see it, right? All these clouds are lining up with right there.
So it appears as though there's the organic sun and or the sun simulator, and I'm not trying to have a discussion about whether there's a sun simulator or not, so please don't derail from the main topic in the comment section. There appears to be the sun and or sun simulator, and then to the left of the sun is some kind of object unbeknownst to us that's causing all the aluminum from the chemtrails to be pulled towards that object. I guess my question to you guys is, what is that object in the sky that has such a strong magnetic pull that it's causing the chemtrail metals to be pulled towards it? And what is it that has so much iron in it that it could affect our electromagnetic field and cause the plasma fires? Or the appearance of the moon looking like it's tilted in all kinds of weird directions sometimes, and the random rainbow colors in the clouds and the rainbow rings around the sun. What could be causing this electromagnetic pole shift? The last thing I want to say is Jeff made a video called Fiery Sermon from the Valley of the Shadow. It's actually 2 videos. There's a part 2, I believe. But check out that video. I'll put a link in the description below. It's called Fiery Sermon from the Valley of the Shadow. He shows some really crazy footage and talks about how our society is actually a cult, and how from a spiritual perspective, all these crazy things happening around us are to try to get us to realize that we're living in a cult, so we can finally free ourselves from it and find freedom. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys his footage. It's pretty crazy, but I'll talk to you guys later, and thanks for watching.